Good evening, and welcome again back to still pretending we're in the courtroom, right? and what do we do in the courtroom?
Court.
We have court.
We listen.
We listen? Yeah. Yeah, what does the jury do?
Just make a decision.
Try to make a decision about what's true, what really happened, right? Yeah, and that's what we've been doing with Jesus. We're listening to what really happened and trying to decide if he is who he claims he is or if he's somebody else. And today we'll hear the testimony of Simon Peter, who was a disciple of Jesus. Peter will tell about how Jesus turned the rules of society upside down by doing the work of a servant, washing his disciples' feet. And Peter was very uncomfortable with this at first. We heard him say, "You will never wash my feet." But Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." It was very important to Jesus that Peter learn that being a servant was what Jesus wanted to do, what Jesus needed to do. In our world, people who are leaders, what do we think of people who are leaders? Smart, popular, sometimes good looking, rich, famous, good actors, good dancers, athletes. These are all seen as leaders, right? They speak up enough, right? But in Jesus' eyes, it was the meek and the humble who are the greatest. He said, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And he said, "The least among you is the greatest." So Jesus calls each of us to be a humble servant for him. Can you think of ways you can be a humble servant to people around you? You don't have to wash their feet, do you? We don't do that very often, do we? That was common in Jesus' day, but today we don't do that. We wear socks and shoes and keep the dirt off our bodies more. But in his day, that was common. How about how you could help your moms at the table? Yeah? Or help her do the dishes, or make sure she's comfortable? Yeah?
Let people live in your fifth wheel.
Yeah, let people live in your camper. Maybe help a classmate who's having trouble. All of those things. Help out your neighbors. All little things, all sorts of little things all around us. Opportunities for it to serve each other, aren't there? Ways to show that we love one another and we love Jesus, and who loved us and fills us with his love. So you see, Jesus was the greatest servant there ever was. He could only save us by serving us. He served us by coming to earth to live with us. He served us by giving his body and blood in the bread and wine of Holy Communion for the forgiveness of our sins. He served us by giving his life for us on the cross, so that we might live with him forever in heaven. Jesus' way is not the world's way, is it? But his way of humble service is the only way to save us. I hope the jury learns that lesson from the testimony we heard here today.
We call to the witness stand Simon, also named Peter. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You are one of the inner circle of Jesus' disciples, are you not?
I suppose you could say that. Yes, although there were many followers of Jesus who were referred to as disciples, and our numbers were growing all the time as he traveled and preached and healed, still I was one of the 12.
And more than that, weren't you? along with the Zebedee brothers, John, whom we've already interrogated here, and James.
A member of the inner circle? Yes. Some would have called us that. The three of us were invited to certain very special events and privy to some of Jesus' more private conversations.
And while it was John who was referred as the beloved disciple, Jesus had given you a special nickname of your own, didn't he?
I'm not sure that the term nickname describes it. It was more of a renaming. My name was Simon, Simon, son of Jonah, a common fisherman from Capernaum in Galilee. One morning, as my brother Andrew and I were catching fish in our nets, Jesus called to us to follow him. I will make you fishers of men, he said, and indeed he has.
Thank you very much. We've already heard testimony of such a call to follow from the apostle named Matthew.
Sorry, but you asked me about my renaming. As I said, I have always been Simon. But then one day, while we were in Galilee near Caesarea, I recall...
We?
Well, the 12 of us, and Jesus, of course, while he was teaching us. Jesus asked us what people were saying about him. Specifically, who do people say that I am?
Now this sounds pertinent to our case. After all, we're trying to get to the bottom of who this Jesus was ourselves.
Well, we told him the rumors we'd heard circulating through the gathering crowds.
Rumors?
Yes, yeah. That Jesus was a prophet, or John the Baptist returned from the grave, or Elijah, or Jeremiah, that sort of thing. But then he turned the tables on us. He was good at that. He asked, who do you say that I am?
And who did you say it was? Did anyone reply?
Oh, yes, of course. I jumped right in. I had a reputation of doing that. Always more than a bit impetuous me. I was the type who engaged his mouth before he engaged his brain. You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God, I shouted.
We knew this witness would be biased. Please disregard his conclusions.
To be honest, I don't even know where those words came from.
So you didn't really believe that Jesus was God's son?
Oh yes, I absolutely did. I believed it, but the words seemed to fly out of me, independent of myself. Jesus confirmed that. He said, flesh and blood have not given this truth to you, but my Father in heaven. That's when he renamed me. You will no longer be Simon, Jesus said. You are Peter.
Why Peter?
Well, it's a play on words. See, Petrus means rock. Jesus went on to say, on this rock, this Petrus, I will build my church. He was affirming my faith made evident in my faithful declaration, a faith that would form the foundation of his church for all believers.
Well, Rocky, it appears that you certainly were on the inside track with this Messiah of yours. So when you were invited to an ad hoc upper-level meeting on the day before Jesus' execution, that gathering was, in essence, a tribunal of what could fairly be called Jesus' generals?
No. It was hardly that. The opposite, in fact. This was no upper-level meeting, though it did take place in an upper room. No, this was a celebration, a feast, a gathering. Jesus had arranged that we, the 13 of us, should celebrate the Passover together. Normally, a family would share this special ancient meal, but Jesus had told us that he had longed to celebrate it with us. That's the term he used. He longed to share this family meal with us. And as your assertion that we were a gathering of generals, well, nothing could be further from the truth. We were his followers, his disciples, his students. He was our teacher. We were not his advisors, as you imply, nor were we henchmen or commanders. Ours was a relationship of subservience and learning. Up until that night, that is.
Aha! I was informed that Jesus turned some tables that night, so to speak.
Oh, that he did, indeed. Things became curious early enough. Shortly after we gathered together, Jesus did the strangest, most unorthodox, most uncalled for thing. He stood up and wrapped a towel around his waist. It reminded me of when he used to wear his carpenter's apron. And he took a large basin of water and he took on a servant's role. He began washing our feet filthy from the dust of Jerusalem's dusty streets. This was the job of the lowest level servant, not the respected rabbi among us.
That seems downright objectionable.
And I did object. Me, always engaging my mouth before my mind. Lord, are you going to wash my feet? You will never wash my feet, I shouted.
Finally, someone was talking sense to this senseless Jesus.
Oh, but don't you see, I was wrong. And as he had done so many times before, Jesus rebuked me. Unless I wash you, you have no share with me, he said. Well, then wash me clean, my whole body, I responded, once again, missing the point. You are clean, he said.
The leader taking on the servant's role in front of his students, his underlings, it's more than odd. He's turning our roles around, questioning our norms and customs. This Jesus is dangerous. He's threatening the very foundations of our society, flipping things upside down.
Oh, he most certainly is. According to Jesus, the first becomes the last. The least becomes the greatest. The servant is served by the master. The Son of Man has not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. He once said, and on that Thursday night, Jesus put his words into action, serving all of us, his servants, washing our feet.
This is dangerous. It could unhinge our entire society.
He was giving us an example of how to act toward one another. And later in the evening, he said just that. I give you a new commandment, he said, that you love one another, just as I have loved you.
A new commandment? Now this insurrectionist is changing and adding to our most sacred codes of law? It's nothing less than anarchy. What would happen if people were to disregard the law and simply start loving one another? What sort of society could be built on that?
A new kind of society. A new kind of church. The very kingdom of God, in fact.
I could charge you with contempt. Or was that you just engaging your mouth before your mind could appear?
No, that was me engaging my faith, my mind and my heart, all at the same time.
If it would please the court, if you would just please stop with your opinions and assertions and continue your testimony of the events of that evening.
The celebration of the Passover was wonderful. As the evening went on, it became obvious why Jesus had so longed to share it with us. To gather at that table in the spirit of oneness, friendship, family, trust. To remember the ancient night when death had passed over and new life was offered to the children of Israel. And then for Jesus to gather us together with himself in something truly mysteriously unifying, new.
Don't tell us that Jesus even tampered with the ancient rite of Passover.
It seems strange and out of place at the time, but during the meal, Jesus changed the traditional speech. He took a piece of bread, broke it, and thanked his Father and passed it around. And he said, "This bread is my body. He's broken for you."
Your friend John has already testified to Jesus' strange assertions that he's the living bread of heaven.
After we had finished the meal, Jesus took one of the traditional cups of wine, but blessed it in a different manner and passed it around for all of us to drink. "This is the new covenant in my blood," he said.
New covenant? You can't mean it. God's ancient covenant with Israel, sealed at Mount Sinai, is the glue that holds this entire society together. And he's suggesting a whole new one?
That evening, Jesus had become our servant. He had given us one another in a bond of love. And he was giving himself to us in bread and wine as a new sacrifice. A new sacrifice that brings God and his grace close to us. Not close to us, but into our midst, and even into our own bodies. Jesus gave us a new feast to look forward to, a promised and eternal feast, which will gather all of God's children into the house of the Lord forever. Oh, we didn't realize it at the time. We would come to understand later, after Jesus had sacrificed his body and shed his blood on the cross, after he returned to bear witness to God.
This court has heard enough. This witness, biased and dangerous, is dismissed. It is clear that Jesus was up to something, to anarchy, insurrection. His plans were to turn our society on its ear. He was meant to undermine our most cherished norms and our dearest customs. Ancient rituals meant nothing to him. Old covenants, the foundations of our society, were meaningless to him. He meant to tear from top to bottom at our very moral fiber. He was rightly considered an enemy of the state. Imagine a society based on love, servitude, and unity. Absurd. This court is in recess.